Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm Marcia Mode-Stavros, a practitioner here at Light on the Mountains. And we were just chatting about how we were sitting here and we could hear laughter from people coming in, and we could see sunshine ahead of us. And we heard music to our right, and down the hall to the left was Max with the little kids who are making cards today. And there was just such a feeling of joy. And we want to share that joy with those of you who are not in this room with us, but who are with us in spirit. So welcome, everybody. I would invite you now to enjoy a short period of time that will get you all set for the rest of your week. I know there is an incredible life force, Father, Mother, Spirit, God, the isness, the allness, the order behind the cosmos. I know this life force to be all providing, all sustaining, and all renewing. And I open to these truths and invite you to open to these truths as we allow them to wash through us and guide us as we walk forward. I give thanks for this morning, for all those who participate to make this such an important, special place, to our guest musicians, to Reverend John, to Christine, and to everyone here and all those who are with us from afar. I give thanks for all these riches, and together we say, and so it is. Well, in case you haven't noticed, it's Super Bowl Sunday, a time that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. As I kicked around possible correlations between this sports event and my message this morning, I had a little trouble. So I decided to focus on the word bowl. I thought of last month's Burning Bowl and the Hunger Coalition's Empty Bowls. And then in the far recesses of my mind, I remembered a Light on the Mountain Sunday years ago when we were located in a room in a motel on Main Street in Ketchum. I suppose it might have been around 2010. That Sunday, writer Sue Bender came to speak. Sadly, I don't recall all of the details. Perhaps she was here to talk at the Wellness Festival. But what I do remember is an image that has stuck with me all these years. Ms. Bender had recently published a book called Plain and Simple, A Woman's Journey to the Amish. And she told us about her growing interest in the idea of the begging bowls that monks use. Each day, a monk goes out with an empty bowl in his hands. Whatever is placed in the bowl will be his nourishment for the day. And most importantly, what is placed in the bowl is always enough. And as Miss Bender later wrote, like the monk going out with his empty bowl, I set out to see what each day offered. I began noticing the way an observer might what I was doing, all my thoughts, feelings, and experiences, what was filling my bowl. She also later learned from a Zen priest that the Japanese word for a begging bowl means just enough. When Ms. Bender spoke to us, she asked us to imagine holding up an empty bowl every morning and reflecting on how we would like to fill it. How would we like our precious new day to look? How could we put into our bowl that which would sustain and nourish us? And how could we know with gratitude that it was just enough? I frequently think about that image, and in my mind, I see myself with my favorite sky blue pottery bowl, lifting it to the heavens, to the divine, as I invite in the potential for a new day of wonder and love, a day not taken for granted, A day which begins with a morning invitation to notice my bowl, my day, my life. An empty bowl, starting clean, a bowl waiting to be filled as we co-create each day with Spirit. This image has soothed me. It has lulled me. It has taught me to notice and to be more aware rather than just riding the wave of what the day might bring. And this practice has taught me the glory of each new morning and the gift that has been bestowed upon each of us as we fill another precious day with just enough. In a sense, then, don't we each have our own Super Bowl? And so it is. And now we will shift gears and join together in reading the February affirmation. You'll find it in the insert, printed in red. And as I always say, when I took prac class from Bob Grabowski, he always said it's not the words that matter, it's what you put behind them. So you can say an affirmative prayer in about 5 words. So say these as you really mean it. My thought is creative. I envision a life where the power and presence of Spirit manifests through everything I experience.
Well, we know our friend RL usually shares a thought of the day, and we thought we'd continue that tradition if it's all right.
We're so grateful that creatively this organization shares your weekly services over live stream. Hello to that audience out there, because lately David has been watching every week.
I have. So if you could all turn around, I could recognize the back of your heads. Thank you. Oh, that's you. Oh, yeah.
We're so grateful to be here with you this morning, and as I've been thinking about creativity in my own life, I've been thinking about how David and I have a new roommate. Our friend Audra from Richmond, she is here working on a theater piece, and she needed a place to stay. So we're hosting her for a couple of months. It's a long stay. And, you know, there is work involved in sharing part of yourself where you usually would not. So we're sharing a roof, we're sharing a car, we're sharing a kitchen, we're sharing a bathroom, and that's a lot. But in exchange for that little bit of sharing, of giving, we get so much creativity. We get a co-pilot, we get shared meals, we get beautiful singing in the bathroom.
Yeah, so I think if you give a little love, you get a lot in return. So my challenge for me and my thought for you is going to be, you'll never regret an act of kindness. Try it out. Give a little love is the name of this song. Well, I know my death will not come till I breathe all the air out my lungs, and my final tune is sung, that all is fleeting, yeah, but all is good.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Allie. So good to see you in person.
Yeah.
It's funny, you always wonder, who are all those people on the other side of that camera? And it's interesting that with all things still happening, we still have more people attend online. Any way they come is good for me, which is just interesting. I always think things are going to unfold differently than you expect. Oh, I forgot something. Hold on. Talk amongst yourselves. So I have multiple things to talk about today that I think are actually going to fit together in some strange way. First of all, this month we're talking about creativity, the creative process, how we co-create with the divine in our lives, and also how it's interesting how even though we have an intention, things often don't unfold how we might think they might unfold. That surprises happen. That we may have something so focused in our mind how we think it should happen, and it doesn't, and it shows up differently. Again, just like post-COVID or semi-post-COVID, people are still very comfortable at home in their PJs, and that's okay. It's working for people. But one thing that we talk about as we are co-creating right now, is what we talk a lot about, is how we're recreating our youth and family program. And one thing to remind people, families are anywhere from one person to 20 or more. So it's this idea of family and connection, and kids are showing up, and I won't name names, but we have a kid who's shown up that hasn't been here in a while. We're very excited. But when you put out there that we are supportive of youth and family, we've had a couple interesting things happen that I never thought would happen. And so again, these may seem not related, but they are. So about 2 weeks ago, our favorite rabbi, Rabbi Robbie, called me and said, you know, we have a gift that we'd like to give you if you are able to accept it. The Wood River Jewish community have either just opened or on the verge of opening their first facility here in the Wood River Valley. And for those of you that were here when we opened ours a million years ago, it's such an exciting moment. I mean, amazingly exciting. And I think they were supposed to get their occupancy certificate this last week, but you know how sketchy that can be. So I don't know if they got it or not. But anyways, they have a baby grand piano that they said they don't have room for. And they said, do we want it? And I said, well, you know, we love our piano. But I talked to RL and says, well, let me go check this out. And if it's a significant upgrade, we'll say, yeah, we'll take it. And so he said, yeah, we are. So first of all, that's a great thing. But then the question is, what do we do with this? And talking to RL, of course, his hands are in a million things. It says, you might find this hard to believe, but it's kind of hard to find a recipient when you're donating a piano. Like, for one thing, it's pretty big. But we said, you know, it seems like the thing to do. But we want to have this intention of it going somewhere amazing. And if push comes to shove, if it ends up in the social hall for a while, heaven forbid, we'll deal with it. So we're thinking, well, what are we going to do with this? Who do we call? And I'm talking to everyone like, do you know anybody? Do you know anybody kind of thing. And I called the man who tunes our piano, for one, because we'll need a piano tuning when it moves. Two, he also does piano movings, so it was like a multi-purpose call. And I said at the end of it, it says, and we want to, you know, he's very familiar with our piano. We want to gift our piano, and I know sometimes it can be difficult to find a recipient. He says, well, let me figure this out for you. 20 minutes later, he calls me back. He says, the Seas Mountain School of Music in Haley would love to take this, and of course, they primarily teach music to youth. Again, you can see the little thread here that we're putting out there that we want to be supportive of youth, and this is going to youth. Second thing, again, it may seem like these are unrelated, but I think they are. So as I've mentioned a couple times, just recently there is a new chapter of PFLAG that have formed in our valley. For those who aren't familiar what that is, it's an organization that's actually been around for decades. The acronym has in the past stood for Friends and Parents of Lesbians and Gays. In other words, bringing families together to be supportive of family members that are LGBTQ+, as well as to raise the consciousness of what needs are and all that sort of thing. And we had our first meeting here, but just to let you know that over the years, like when I lived in LA and different parts of the country, there might be a pride parade sort of thing, and there always would be in the parade a PFLAG chapter. And just to tell you that, I can't even tell you what it was like for people in the viewers to see parents walking hand in hand with their both teenage and adult children who were gay. And in this celebratory thing of people, parade watchers, actually in tears, just in sadness for themselves because they didn't have that, and in joy for those people that did. So when we heard that there was a new chapter here, we just thought, we need to gift our space to them. So we had our first meeting here Monday, and there were 25 people that came. And there were teachers, there were parents, there were teenagers from the school system here, there were young adults, and there was even a representative from the Blaine County Sheriff's Department who is the liaison for the LGBTQ community here. And it was amazing. I mean, just to bring that together. So I just want you to know what's going on in our building. And again, saying we are supportive of youth, and this kind of like, oh, here's a possibility. Here's something that you can do. And even segueing into the next thing I'm talking about, the person who facilitated the meeting really did it masterfully. When something is just seemingly so seamless and at ease, you just say, well, that was great. It doesn't happen by accident. So she started, you've all been to meeting toward things and you're in a circle and it's like an icebreaker or you introduce yourself or something along that line. And she purposely didn't start with us going around introducing ourselves. So imagine when you have introduced yourselves in the past, like a 30-second or less bio. Give your name, usually your career or job you've had, or if you're retired, had in the past, a couple things you're up to. But basically when we do that, it defines our role, but doesn't tell who we are. And so she started with a little thing that we had the opportunity, without telling our roles, but to give a little hint of who we are. So she had this little card game thing, almost like a Trivial Pursuit kind of cards, and two got pulled at random, and questions for everyone to go around and ask. And the first one was, name something that you were not allowed to do or have as a child. It's interesting, in these type of icebreakers, I've been to places where it brought us to really, kind of quiet places, but this was not a quiet place. We were just having fun with this. And so I have to share your mind what I wasn't allowed to do. And it was funny, everyone was sharing, like, I wasn't allowed to have sugar and all that, and I kind of laughed because we had the Coca-Cola company deliver directly to our home. No, and I'm really not exaggerating. We did. The Coca-Cola truck would pull up, and there would be like 50 cases that would go out in the back storage shed. And I have the crowns to prove it. So, but anyway, so interesting. So when I was like 8th grade, got my first pair of glasses. And of course, went to the optometrist, and in those days, the optometrist and where you go get glasses are separate. So we went to the doctor, and my dad says, so what kind of frames do you want? And so this is an interesting indication of my father's politics. And at that time, I wanted something like this, which was kind of a new thing, like wire rims or wireless. That was, and in my father's mind, that was like what hippies did. And he asked me if I had communist leanings. And so that was the kind of thing. We were just having fun with it. And I thought, no, I don't think so. Just wanted a pair of glasses, sort of thing. But here's a question I want you to ask yourselves too, because it's really telling of who you are, in a sense, or what makes up who you are. The second question was to share a gift that you had sometime in your life that was meaningful or touched you in some way. Let me just think about that. We're not going to go into workshop mode, but just think of that. So what was interesting is we went around. No one shared like the big gift, like I graduated college and my parents gave me a Jeep kind of thing. It was all really very sweet and wonderful gifts in a sense. And usually everyone gave just a really brief story because it was from their grandmother, and every time they see it, it reminds them of their grandmother, or it was a doll, or just very simple things. Mine was, I think it might actually be in my office. My parents had a friend, didn't have any kids. He saw my brother and sister and I as kind of his surrogate kind of nephews and nieces. And one day he says, I want to take your guys' pictures after school next week. Oh, okay. But it was for a reason. And he gave my brother and sister and I actually this kind of framed plaqued thing of coins of our birth year, because we all collected pennies of uncirculated coins and had our little picture inset that he took. And I still have it, and there's a little, like, writing in the back, love from Uncle Kenny, kind of thing. So it just something that touched you. So if you think of that, and if whatever came to your mind, it tells you a lot about who you are, what you think is important, what touches your heart, and whatever gifts may have popped up in your memory. My guess is that you made, either consciously or unconsciously, the attempt to do the same for someone else. That you wanted someone to have something that was as meaningful to them as that small gift was to you. I mean, do some inventory. We probably all have some interesting things from our house that maybe even from childhood, and there's such simple little things that we remember, and there's a little story around it. So when we say, who are we? Stories like that have a lot to say about who we have allowed ourselves to become. And at our meeting, after we did that, then we went around with the usual, okay, my name is, this is what I do. And I was so grateful for it because, as I have shared sometimes in the past, I kind of don't like telling people what I do for a living. It has so much baggage to it that there's some people that have my profession in high regard, and they wait for me to walk on water. And there's other people that think that, like I'm a supervillain, depending on their experience. So it's an interesting thing where people will see me as a two-dimensional figure. And that's true for a lot of professions, whether you're a teacher, or accountant, or musician, or actor, that whatever that person has in their mind of what you represent, you suddenly become that. And possibly over a period of time or even a conversation, they see that it's maybe a little bit more nuanced than that. So that's what I thought was so masterful of going to tell something that comes from your soul as opposed to, this is my label, sort of thing. So I'm actually getting to the topic of what I want to talk about now. Basically, as we co-create our lives, is to challenge ourselves to tell the truth. I'm not insinuating that you're all big old liars. And I think more often than not, we tell the truth to other people, but we may not always tell the truth to ourselves about us. That in our Science of Mind philosophy, often you'll see Ernest Holmes writing that we are perfect, whole, and complete on the level of spirit, and many of us at many times don't believe that. And that we may come from a sense of feeling more of imperfection than perfection. And I'm not saying we don't make mistakes. I'm not saying that we all don't do things that we need to make amends for or seek forgiveness for. But the truth of who we are is that we are perfect, whole, and complete. And we often approach life as if that is not true. I found an interesting quote that I shared on my blog this week by Sue Patton, and I can't pronounce her last name, from a book called The Mindful Woman. She writes, "One of our soul's major purposes is to know, love, and express our authentic selves, to live the life we were meant to live, and be the person we were created to be. However, our true selves will only emerge when it's safe to do so. Self-condemnation, shame, guilt, and judgment send your true nature into hiding. It is only in the safety of gentle curiosity, support, encouragement, and self-love that your soul can bloom as it was created to do so." So let's talk this morning about how we can challenge ourselves to tell the truth. So I also wrote in my blog this week about the movie Liar, Liar with James Carey. Did anyone remember that one? It's a mid-90s kind of thing. I love that movie in a sense that, just to tell you who those who don't remember didn't see it. So it's a comedy, of course. He plays this character that has a real vague relationship with the truth, let's say. That he just seemingly can't help himself. That he doesn't tell the truth even when he doesn't need to not tell the truth. That in his professional and personal life, it's always saying, yes, I'll show up, and never shows up sort of thing. And it's causing much distress in his family. In fact, it looks like his wife and young child are going to exit the relationship and let him just go off and tell lies into the sunset on his own. So his child, and the kid was probably 10 years old in the movie, has a birthday party. Of course, the James Carey character told him he would make it to the party, and he didn't. And he's making a wish of his birthday cake, and his wish was that his father would tell the truth for 24 hours. And of course, the shtick with the movie is that magically this becomes so. That you see him in many social situations, professional situations, that he wants to tell the untruth, and he just can't, physically can't do it. And for those who know Jim Carrey, he just is a great physical comedian, that he's like contorts his body and all this, and he's like practically on the ground, like he wants to tell the lie, and he just can't. And as he's telling all these outrageous things to people, like they're like, I can't believe you just told me that. And it is actually quite funny. And I think there's one scene that he's a lawyer, and he's trying to mislead the people, the judge and all that, and he just can't. So, as we all know, the movie ends well. He has a new, relationship with the truth. The family gets back together, and he is, resolved that he's going to tell the truth from now on after all these things happening. As extreme as that is, I think our challenge can be for us to tell the truth for one day. I mean, to really tell the truth. And this doesn't mean you're going to go, tell people what you think of them. In fact, here's one of my kind of pet peeve sort of things that I did some reading about this week and kind of laid it out in a way that made sense to me. So there's nothing more intimidating when someone comes to me and says, John, I need to live in my own truth and tell you something. That usually means I need to duck under the table, or put on some armor or something. It's like, here it comes, so to speak. That has nothing to do with telling the truth or your own truth is about. Telling your own truth is being grounded in the knowledge that you are perfect, whole, and complete, and that you are an aspect of spirit, and that it's not about relaying an opinion, it's about standing in the reality of who you are. And we confuse this sometimes, that if you are in a conversation and you are truly coming from being well grounded of who you are, it's amazing how well you can express yourself. That you're not making it about the other person and what they may or may have not done. That when you do that, we're in what I call more of a conflict resolution as opposed to telling the truth. Two completely different processes. Sometimes you do need to bring a couple people together, possibly with a facilitator, and say, yeah, I think you did this. Oh, no, I think you did this. And you bring it all together in a healthy kind of environment. But standing in your own truth is just not standing in judgment. It's actually coming to the realization that what someone else may have done or feel or believe has nothing to do with you and the truth that you're living in your life. Very different. So, how can we utilize that? And again, it's not about telling other people what we think. Sometimes that's so oh, I really want to do it. And there are, again, times that it's appropriate that you might. So in a sense, standing in your own truth for, let's say, a minimum of 24 hours, and I'm not saying that you would never do it more than 24 hours, but let's focus on this. To stand in your own truth, to tell the truth of who you are in a 24-hour period, and see how you react. In fact, as we were coming to service this morning, I was listening to a little thing on NPR that fit in with this. I think it was a psychologist or something. She said, each and every day, pick out what you think was the most stressful occurrence. And let's replay this a bit. And I didn't listen to everything she had to say, but as I was replaying this again, there's actually 3 choices, kind of, that you may have. Choice 1 might be that you handled it pretty well. That it was a little dicey, but you rose to the occasion. You felt like you had the information or training or the sense of being grounded to handle it. And whether it was conversations or anything else, that you felt like, yeah, I believe that I handled it well. A second way in reviewing might be, I didn't handle it well, but I really feel that it's an area that I need some training. I need some more information. I need to seek out a way to expand what my talents and capabilities are. So maybe it didn't go well, but I see where I can, in a sense, resolve to do better by getting, again, the right training, the right information. The third thing might be, it didn't go well, and it's because of me, who I am as a person. That I'm flawed on some level. I always never do well in these situations, and I feel at a complete loss. So as you are telling your 24-hour of truth-telling, where do you go with those 3 generally? You may have to think on it a bit. Or you think, yeah, I handle some things well, and yeah, some things not so well, but I do better. Or are there some places where, in a sense, you're not telling the truth because you believe that it did not go well because of inherently of who you are as a human being? And so standing in your truth is to come to the realization that, yes, you may need more training, more whatever, but the essence of who you are is absolutely perfect the way that it is. So if you do this 24 hours or 48 hours or a week, it's really interesting in telling, for each of us, where do we go more often than not? And to realize that in our own spiritual growth, our own human growth, that if there's a place that we're going to that it's better off that we don't, to resolve and to do our inner work, to be in our truth, and to come from a different spot, and to do it differently. And to at least start with the idea that I'm perfect, whole, and complete, even if there's parts of me that believe that I'm not. And it can be life-changing to at least make that first step in realization. And especially if you, in your little experiment with yourself, if you come to realize that there's certain subjects or categories in my life where it seems like I have the most trouble. Again, what do I believe about myself in those situations? And how can I now uplift myself to something different? And as we do, we start to see our life unfold differently. And we talk about creativity, that we start to see things happen more in synchronicity and showing up in ways unexpectedly in a good way. So, can you tell the truth? So I just want to end with some reading that I came across this week. It says, we ask each of you to decide something now, to pray for yourselves to be in honesty, to align to your own honesty in all ways in your life. When you lie, you are defending something. When you are defending something, you are afraid. When you are not honest, you are out of alignment with your worth. You must ask yourself these things. Why must I protect myself from the opinions of others? Why do I care what they think? Why do I claim my power in ways that may not be true, so I may be perceived as one that I am not? You all believe yourselves to be so small that you create structures to elevate yourselves, and the higher you climb on this structure without any real foundation, the higher your regard is for what could happen to you if you fall. We will tell you one thing. When you build a foundation and manifestation in your own divine worth, you are on solid ground. You have a foundation which will hold you in all circumstances. You have a rock, if you wish, of safety and a place to stand in your own worth, regardless of what happens around you. So let's just take this in for a few moments. Everyone here, everyone at home, and know the truth that we are perfect, whole, and complete. That we stand in our truth, knowing that we are spiritual beings who came here to make the world a better place. We allow ourselves to learn that which we need to learn. We allow ourselves to gain the skills we may need to have to be even more effective in this physical world. But at all times, we stand in our truth, our own perfection, as human spiritual beings. So we live this truth from this moment forward. We step out into the world knowing the essence of who we truly are. And for this, we give our thanks. And as we give our thanks, we release this into the heart and mind of spirit, knowing that it is done. And so it is.